All right, strap in, everyone, because today we're diving deep into breakups with this book, Breaking Up Like a Man.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of advice for guys specifically, which,
Right.
we'll see what we can pull out of it that's, universal.
For sure. Always good to look at things from different perspectives.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So, right off the bat, this book kind of throws out the whole happily ever after fairy tale thing.
Does it? In what way?
Well, it basically says breakups are like pretty much unavoidable.
Interesting.
Which, when you think about it,
Yeah.
how many people do you know who have only had one serious relationship like their whole lives?
Not many. Not many at all.
Right,
I
exactly.
guess it's sort of reframing those relationships that maybe didn't work out
Yeah.
as like stepping stones,
Stepping stones, yeah.
Not just to finding the one, but to figuring out yourself.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, each breakup, like, it shows you a little more about what you want and what you don't want.
Yeah, what you need, what you don't need.
Right, and maybe even some patterns in yourself that you want to change.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe it's less about like avoiding heartbreak
Uh-huh.
and more about like using it,
Yeah.
Making those heartbreaks teach you something.
Totally. Yeah, I can get behind that.
Okay, but this is where I kind of got tripped up a little bit.
Yeah. What's that?
So the book talks about this whole leaving your partner better than you found them thing,
Okay.
which sounds great in theory,
Right.
but like, how do you even start to do that? Especially if the breakup is like really bad.
Well, I think it can be easy to get hung up on the big gestures.
Right.
But sometimes it's like the subtle things that really make a difference.
Oh, okay.
You think about it like maybe in this relationship, you learn to communicate better.
Mm-hmm.
And even during the breakup, you can show that,
Yeah.
help your partner. Maybe they understand themselves better or can express themselves better.
Yeah.
That's leaving them better in a very real way.
Okay, so it's like less about being the nice guy and more about teaching them something.
Exactly. Impart some wisdom.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, but then the book also talks about recognizing when it's time to let go,
Mm-hmm.
which feels kind of like the opposite of like working on things,
Yeah, it's a tough one for sure.
So how do those two ideas even work together?
I think it comes down to balance.
Okay.
The book makes this point about relationships being selfish in a way.
Selfish.
Well, both people need to be getting something out of it, right?
Yeah.
Like if one person's just unhappy all the time.
Yeah, something's got to change.
Exactly.
So it's like healthy selfishness.
Yeah, I think so.
Knowing when your needs aren't being met, even if you love the person.
Exactly.
That's tough.
Yeah, it is.
But I guess you also have to remember that people change.
Yeah.
And sometimes those changes mean you grow apart.
Right. And like holding on to a relationship that's not working,
Yeah.
that can actually hurt both people.
More than just letting go.
I think so.
Okay, so let's say you've realized, all right, this is it. It's time.
Yeah.
How do you actually have that breakup conversation?
Ooh, the dreaded breakup talk.
Because let's face it, they're always hard.
No matter what, yeah.
So the book says, like, be honest, be compassionate,
Mm-hmm.
but that just seems so vague to me.
Yeah, what does that even mean, really?
Exactly.
I think it's about going beyond those, like, general statements,
Okay,
Not just saying it's not you, it's me, but actually being specific.
give me an example.
Instead of I need space, maybe you say I need more time alone for my own things,
Oh, okay.
Be honest about what you need,
Yeah,
but also tell your partner how this affects them.
gotcha.
It's about being truthful, but with empathy.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
It's almost like you have to be this, like, emotional badass.
Uh-huh. A breakup badass.
Yeah, weathering the storm with the other person
That's a great way to think about it.
instead of, like, just running away.
Yeah, you're there to, like, help them understand,
Provide closure, even if it hurts.
Exactly. That's the badass part. You're there for them, but you're also standing your ground.
Right. Present and empathetic, but also strong.
Exactly. That's the tough part.
It is tough.
Yeah.
But I guess that's what makes it so important.
Totally.
All right, so we've talked about accepting that breakups happen
Mm-hmm.
and learning from them and even having that tough conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the aftermath? Like, how do you deal with all the feelings?
The post-breakup blues.
Exactly. Because no matter how much you prepare, breakups just suck.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And this book, it actually spends a lot of time on that part.
Does it? What does it say?
Well, first it talks about all the common pitfalls.
Okay, like what?
Rebound relationships, dwelling on the past, isolating yourself.
Right, all the classic breakup traps.
Yeah, like the ice cream and sad movie montage.
We've all been there.
Exactly. But the book says those things just make it harder to heal.
Huh. So what does it recommend instead?
Well, it focuses a lot on self-care.
Okay, like what kind of stuff?
Doing things you enjoy, spending time with people who support you.
Friends, family, therapists.
Anyone you trust.
That makes sense.
It's about remembering that heartbreak is normal,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have to take over your life.
Right? You can move on
It's like shifting those emotional anchors, you know?
from the past to the present.
Exactly. Replacing those old habits with new ones.
Healthier ones, hopefully.
Yeah, healthier ones.
Like that.
And remembering that healing takes time,
Yeah. You gotta be patient with yourself.
but with the right support and a little self-love,
Hmm.
you can come out of it even stronger.
Stronger and wiser. Right.
Exactly. With some good lessons learned along the way.
So breakups, they're tough, but they can also be like a chance to grow.
Totally.
That's a good way to look at it.
And that actually leads us to a really interesting concept from the book.
Oh, what's that?
It's called the relationship market.
The relationship market.
Yeah, I know it sounds a little weird at first,
Kinda, yeah.
but it's actually a pretty cool way to think about dating and relationships.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So the author says each person brings certain things to the table, right?
Assets and liabilities.
Exactly. And your actions in this market affect how valuable you seem.
So it's like we're all commodities.
Well, not exactly.
Yeah.
It's more about recognizing that there are certain dynamics at play.
Okay, so kind of like supply and demand.
Yeah, like if you're not presenting yourself well,
Hmm.
you might not attract the kind of partners you want.
So if you're putting yourself down or acting desperate,
Yeah,
you're basically lowering your value.
that's one way to look at it.
Interesting.
But the book also says that if you focus on yourself,
Okay.
like building your confidence, following your passions, setting boundaries,
Hmm.
then you actually become more attractive to the right people.
It's like investing in yourself makes you a better investment for someone else.
Exactly.
So it's not about becoming this like perfect version of yourself. It's about embracing the process of growing and learning.
Because that journey actually makes you more appealing.
More interesting, more dynamic.
Yeah, more desirable as a partner.
I could see that.
And it goes back to what we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Every relationship, even the bad ones, teaches you something.
Right.
So the more experience you have in this metaphorical market,
Yeah.
the better you get at choosing the right partners.
The ones who are truly compatible with you.
Exactly.
I like this relationship market idea. It's making me think.
Me too. Me too.
It's a good way to frame things.
And that actually brings us to one of the most interesting points in the book.
Oh, really? What's that?
The author says that the person you date next
Yeah.
will always be better in some way than the one before.
Huh. No, that's a bold statement.
It is, right?
Yeah, like, are we just constantly trading up?
Well, that's what we're going to dig into next time.
Okay, I'm definitely curious to hear more about that.
Because I think there's a deeper meaning there than just superficial improvement.
I'm sure there is.
So stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive into breakups.
Can't wait.
So we're back and ready to unpack this whole idea of the relationship market.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it.
It's definitely an interesting concept.
It is, isn't it?
On one hand, I get that self-improvement can make you more attractive, but reducing love to market forces feels kind of icky, you know?
Yeah, I can see that.
Like we're not just products on a shelf, right?
Right, exactly.
So how do we balance that with the desire for genuine connection?
Well, I think it's important to remember that it's an analogy.
Okay.
The author's not saying we should treat love like a business deal.
Right. But he's saying our actions have consequences.
Exactly. Just like in any market.
Okay. So if you're not putting in the effort,
Yeah,
you might not get the results you want.
basically, yeah.
Okay, I can see that.
It's like if you were investing in a company,
Mm-hmm.
you'd want to see that they're growing and innovating.
Right. Not just staying stagnant.
Ex-
So in relationships, if you're actively working on yourself,
Yeah.
you become more appealing to potential partners.
It's like you're radiating this energy that draws people in.
because you're confident, you're passionate.
Yeah, you're pursuing your goal.
It's not about being perfect.
No, not at all.
It's about embracing the journey of growth.
Exactly. And that journey itself makes you more interesting, more attractive.
So the more experience we have in this relationship market,
Hmm.
the better we get at choosing partners who are actually good for us.
Right. The ones who align with our values and goals.
Exactly. And that brings us back to this idea that the person you date next will be better than the one before.
Yeah, that's a tough one to swallow sometimes.
Especially after a bad breakup.
Totally. But I think what he's getting at is that each relationship teaches us something.
Oh,
We learn about our needs, our deal breakers, what we're willing to compromise on.
so it's not about finding someone objectively better.
No, not like that.
It's about using those experiences to become more self-aware.
And more discerning about who we choose as partners.
Because ultimately, that's what we're all looking for, right?
A relationship that's truly fulfilling.
Exactly, one that's built on mutual respect and understanding.
I think that's a great point.
And I think it's a perfect segue into the next part of our conversation.
Oh, what's that?
The actual breakup conversation.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Because even if you know it's time to end things, actually having that talk can be really tough.
Absolutely. It's never easy.
So how do you do it in a way that's honest and compassionate?
Yeah, without making things worse.
Exactly. And the book offers some really good advice on this.
Does it? Like what?
Well, first of all, it stresses the importance of choosing the right time and place.
Okay, like somewhere private.
Yeah, where you can both talk openly without distractions.
Makes sense.
And being prepared for your partner to have a lot of emotions.
Right, even if you're the one initiating the breakup.
It's still going to be hard for them. So how do you balance being honest about your reasons for leaving with being sensitive to their feelings?
It's a delicate balance for sure.
And the book says to avoid cliches and vague language.
Like, it's not you, it's me.
Exactly. Instead, try something more specific.
Okay, like what?
Like, I have realized I need more independence than this relationship allows.
Oh, okay, I see.
It's about owning your part in the situation, but also acknowledging that it's just not working for you anymore.
And that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Sometimes things just don't work out.
And it's equally important to listen to your partner during that conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
Let them express their emotions without interrupting or getting defensive.
Validate their feelings, even if you don't agree with them.
It's about recognizing their reality.
Even if it's different from yours.
It's almost like you have to be a therapist as much as a partner.
Yeah, in a way.
Holding space for their pain.
Providing support and clarity.
But also staying firm in your decision.
It's a tough job.
It is tough, but approaching it with honesty and empathy can make a huge difference.
It can make the whole process a little less painful.
For both of you.
Exactly. And that brings us to something that often gets overlooked.
What's that?
The aftermath, like how you deal with the emotions after the breakup.
The post-breakup blues.
Exactly, because breakups suck no matter how you slice it.
And this book seems to suggest that how you handle that period can actually impact your future relationships.
Oh, interesting. In what way?
Well, it cautions against all the classic traps.
Like what? Rebound relationships?
Yeah, dwelling on the past, isolating yourself.
The ice cream and sad movie marathon.
Exactly.
We've all been there.
But the book says those behaviors actually prolong the healing process.
So what does it recommend instead?
It emphasizes self-care.
Okay.
Doing things that bring you joy, leaning on your support network.
Spending time with loved ones.
Friends, family, whoever you trust.
It's about remembering that heartbreak is a part of life.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to define you.
You can move on.
It's about shifting those emotional anchors, you know?
From the past to the present.
Exactly. Replacing those old patterns with new, healthier ones.
And recognizing that healing takes time.
Yeah, it's a process.
But with self-compassion and support.
You can emerge from it stronger and more resilient.
So even though breakups are tough,
Yeah,
they can also be opportunities for growth and self-discovery.
absolutely.
Which leads us to a final point from the book.
Okay, I'm all ears.
It's this concept of the relationship market, which I know might sound a little strange at first,
Yeah, we've talked about it a bit already.
but it's actually a really interesting analogy for understanding dating dynamics.
All right, break it down for me.
The author argues that each person brings certain assets and liabilities to the table, and their actions in this market influence their perceived value.
So it's like we're all commodities being bought and sold.
Not exactly. He's not advocating for a purely transactional view of relationships.
Okay, so what's the point then?
He's using this metaphor to illustrate how our behaviors can affect our attractiveness to potential partners.
Like if we're constantly putting ourselves down,
Yeah.
we're basically lowering our stock in the market.
That's one way to look at it, yeah.
Interesting.
The author argues that by cultivating self-confidence, pursuing our passions, we increase our perceived value and attract partners who are aligned with our worth.
It's about knowing what we deserve.
Exactly.
But how does this market idea fit with the desire for real connection and intimacy?
That's a great question, and one we'll explore further in the final part of our deep dive.
Stay tuned, everyone. It's about to get juicy. Okay, so we're back to this whole relationship market idea. I'm still kind of wrestling with it, to be honest. It makes sense that self-improvement makes you more attractive to partners, but isn't it kind of cold to think of love as like a market force?
Now, it definitely raises some eyebrows.
Yeah.
I think it's important to remember that this is just one way to look at relationships, you know? It's an analogy.
Okay, so the author isn't literally saying we should treat love like a Wall Street stock or something.
No, not at all. What he's trying to do is show us that our actions and choices have consequences, just like in any market.
Okay, so if you're not putting your best foot forward, you might not attract the kind of partners you're hoping for.
Exactly.
Okay, I get that. So it's less about assigning a dollar value to yourself and more about recognizing you have something to offer in a relationship. And the more you invest in yourself, the more appealing you become.
Precisely. Think of it like this. If you were going to invest in a company, wouldn't you be more drawn to one that's constantly innovating, growing, and expanding? The same applies to relationships.
So when you're actively engaged in your own development, you just kind of naturally attract others.
You radiate a certain energy, it's attractive.
It's not about becoming some perfect version of yourself then. It's about embracing that journey of growth and self-discovery.
Exactly. And that actually brings us back to one of the book's main ideas, that every relationship, even the ones that end, can help us grow. The more experience we have in this market, the better we get at spotting red flags, setting boundaries, and choosing partners who really match our values and goals.
So each experience, good or bad, adds another layer to our understanding of ourselves and what we want in a partner.
Right, we're constantly learning and becoming more discerning in this marketplace of love, so to speak.
And that brings us to that pretty bold claim the author makes, that the person you date next will always be better than the one before.
Yeah, I know that one can be a bit hard to swallow, especially when you're going through a rough breakup.
It does feel kind of superficial, like we're just constantly trading up for a newer model.
I think it's more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
It's not about looks or status or anything superficial. It's about recognizing that every relationship, even the tough ones, teaches us something valuable.
We learn about our needs, our deal breakers, and what we absolutely won't put up with.
Right, and in a way that makes us better equipped to choose partners who are a better fit for us at that moment in our lives.
So it's less about trading up and more about becoming more self-aware and making wiser choices.
Exactly. And ultimately, isn't that what we're all looking for? A relationship that's based on mutual respect, understanding, and a deep sense of compatibility.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. So as we wrap up our deep dive into breaking up like a man, the main takeaway for me is this. Breakups are a part of life, but they don't have to define us. They can be amazing opportunities for growth and self-discovery.
Beautifully said. And remember, everyone, the path to finding love isn't always smooth. There are twists and turns, unexpected detours, but with each experience, we learn and grow, becoming more equipped to navigate this whole world of human connection.
So embrace the journey, even the messy parts, and know that you're becoming the person you're meant to be, ready for a love that really lasts.